unexpectedly?
No, I think it's live now. Let's go. Okay. So everything is live on my end.
Cool.
Hey, Amber. All right, welcome. So I think in this live stream, what we're just going to do is just go over some of the updates and then kind of just go into what we recently released. And also, I have a few use cases that I kind of want to shuffle through with those newer releases as well.
Yeah, and I think it's first time joining Eric together. Last week covered, and Jeremy joined us. But yeah, John here again from Taskade, co-founder CEO, and Eric has been also doing a lot of community efforts and leading the live stream. So yeah, can go from here.
Yeah. So I think let's see. I am going to pull up and set up a few of my things right here. Let me close this. But yeah, thanks for covering last week. So let's see.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay. Hello everyone. Hello. Okay. So I am just gonna share my screen. If you can also just monitor chat, um, I'll just kind of go into all of the updates, and then if there's any sort of questions, we'll do updates. We'll go into some of the use cases, and then afterwards, we'll kind of do like a Q&A, and then just close out the stream afterwards.
Yeah, and I think this time around I'll help out with the chats. Feel free to ask questions, and we'll line them up.
Awesome. Okay, so let me share my screen right now. Okay. All right. So everyone can see my screen. All right. So I think I'm going to start from projects first. So in projects, one of the things that we have recently released is AI history. And with AI history, this is just like a series of steps into what we're trying to do with it. But the idea is that any of these commands that you run on any sort of task or in your projects will now be available for you through the project history and an AI history tab. So from here, you can click on it, it'll show you where it is, and then you can open it and you'll be able to insert it, replace it. One of the things that one of the pain points that users had before was like, let's say if you archive this, you wouldn't be able to kind of reference it back. But now with this, you'll be able to essentially open it back up in the future. So this is just a series of things, steps that we're taking to kind of it's a quality of life improvement. So yeah, you'll see more coming to that soon. And then let's see. Next we have automations. So for automations, actually, let me jump into the workspace changes that we made. So branded links. This is a huge and long time coming feature request from I think we had like I don't even remember how many users requested this one. But essentially what you can do is if you go to your workspace at the top and then you can do the home folder, do edit. You should see a new domains tab here. And you can actually add a free domain under a Taskade.site. So for example, if I do narek, I would now have the domain narek.taskade.site, and all of my links and stuff would be referenced through this. Now, we are still working on this feature, so there are some things that are a work in progress, but essentially you get a cool free domain that you can add and share around for each one of your workspaces. So if you have one that's for marketing, you can share it under marketing.taskade.site. If you have another one that's for sales, whatever it is, you get it for each one of your workspaces. Now, the really cool part about that is I'm going to go back here. You can actually create your own custom domain as well. So let's say this is my projects. I can do projects.taskade.com. And then if I do add domain, what it will do, let me open that up again. What it will do is it'll actually give you the CNAME records and the text records that you need to add to your DNS. And from there, you'll be able to actually share links with this instead. So this, instead of taskade.com, you would just put your company website, but it allows you to essentially take a step towards branded links. And then DNS, It's your domain name server. That's where all of your records would go. Usually it's like GoDaddy or some other name service that you use. So you can visit our help center, and that has all of our, like, it basically explains how to do all of this stuff for you. And yeah, that was a huge one. This is still, we're still working on some of the functionality, but essentially, whenever you're sharing your AI agents, if I do share agent, you will see that, well, obviously it's Taskade because that's the company name over here, but it'll replace this URL with my custom branded URL. So just one of a few series of steps that we're taking.
Yeah, so I did send the links in the chat, but to connect the dots here, I think since Taskade V1 came out, right, with the projects
Hmm.
and the collaborative nature of the workspace and how you can edit your task list, your mind maps on a project in real time, we introduced something called version history, right, so that you can undo, redo, but you can also restore to a previous version.
Yeah.
And that was accessible at the top right corner of every project. But the natural evolution of that was, hey, how come I don't see a history of all the AI commands and agents being run on this project? So now this is accessible at the same place at the top right corner. So one is version history for the projects. The other one is more agent or AI history. Still not sure what to call it 100%, but right now it's AI history. It's within the same interface at the top right corner. And how does that connect with the C name is that for the longest time ever, people wanted to share projects, right? Whether it's like
Yeah.
a task list, a mind map, an onboarding form to their clients using their own business domain or a subdomain or their own custom domains. And I think that was something that we didn't offer for a while. But now that it's possible and you can set it up on your workspace, we've also evolved a lot. So instead of just sharing a project, we added the ability to share agents, automation templates, and of course AI forms, right, as part of a
Hmm.
automation trigger. And now recently, we introduced the AI kits, right, or bundles. So the point is that now if you set up your custom domain, anything you share within Taskade can be routed through your own branded company link. So this is actually quite powerful.
Yeah, and kind of to add to that too, I think the AI history is kind of like project history is always the assumption's been like you're working with just regular humans, but AI history is now also kind of really emphasizing more of that working and collaborating with AI agents in the same way that you do with humans. So it's just another part of like the experience that we're kind of ironing out in a sense.
Yeah. And yeah, right now the custom domains should be available to some of the legacy plans as well. We haven't, again, ironed out 100%, but if you have trouble accessing, let us know. More than happy to help. Um, yeah, and we haven't announced this in the newsletter yet. So this
Yeah.
live stream, we're actually sharing this before we send out like the blog posts and newsletters. So always open feedback. Yeah.
Getting sneak peeks. So, all right. I think the next feature that I had, let me open this up again. I'm working with like two screens over here, so bear with me, guys. All right. Next is automations. So we go to automation. I think this one is empty, right? Yeah. So I'm gonna go to automations. We recently added a GitHub integration, so you can actually now trigger whenever events happen in GitHub. I'm just typing GitHub over here. So when there's a new pull request, new star, a new issue, or new push, you'll be able to trigger automations with it. And then you can also, so like if there's a new, actually we can do something like if there's a new pull request, then I'm gonna do, you can create a comment, you can get issue information, lock the issue, unlock the issue, or even just create a new issue based on that. So this really opens up a lot of possibilities. I think I'll probably showcase one of the agent tools that I would create from this, and then from there we can move forward. But yeah, GitHub super useful for more of the developer oriented and I guess programming and development environments and use cases. So I know this was a long time request as well. So now we have that as well. Next, let's see. What you can do is actually we released a delay action as well. So for example, if a project is completed, you can do delay and you can set delay times. So an easier way to actually imagine this is let's do new email or a new submission on Typeform, you don't want it to automatically send it right off the bat based on a submission because then that just shows it's AI generated or whatever it is. You might want to add a delay for it. So you can do seconds, you can do minutes, days, weeks, and you just define the time frame here. So this is a super powerful feature. I'll show you guys a few use cases for this too, but essentially you can set up within, let's say, 10 minutes after they submit it, delay it, and then send an email, let's say. So super popular and super well, it was a super popular request and honestly a really good thing.
Yeah, and to touch a little bit on automation, we're constantly expanding on the capabilities of Taskade automation, connecting it with the agents, the projects closer. But we're also open to improving the existing right actions, triggers, enhancing like the fields that we support. So more than welcome to share requests on that on like forum.taskade.com and post that. On the GitHub actual integration, it's a really big one for Taskade, even though it is more targeted towards developers.
Mhm.
GitHub is actually being used more and more, right, by people that are also building out products and projects that's not super code heavy, but they
Yeah.
can still use GitHub to publish like open source content or open source projects, not necessarily purely code driven.
Hmm.
But the triggers and actions also allow you to pull information, post information into GitHub, as well as pull them from GitHub, right? And you can do
Yeah.
this for many different use cases, from like release notes, tracking, prioritization, and running Taskade agents as well in the loop is one. On the delay use case, we internally call this sleep or
Hmm.
wait. But the ability to delay, I think, opens up a ton of use cases also for people that do want to follow up on things.
Yeah.
So not just on like forums and people coming in, but also maybe you just want to. I mean, best example probably when someone signs up, even for Taskade,
Hmm.
you don't necessarily want to send them an email right away on how to set up your agent or automation. You might want to wait 24 hours, right, after they sign up. So delay just opens up a lot of different possibilities here.
Yeah, you stole some of my notes right there, probably. Yeah,
Sorry.
you get it. I mean, we're, what is it? Great minds think alike. So
Yeah, no,
you already got it. You
yeah,
got it ahead of
and
me.
I think this goes back to last week where we talked about a little bit, but the fact is we have a lot of also possibilities already from the trigger side, right? Because I think a lot of people are not aware you can schedule automations, right?
Yeah.
Daily, weekly, and you can set the time every single day. But now, with delay as part of the action, you can schedule, you can delay, you can basically time everything perfectly to make something repetitive, automated, and then still throw agents, into the loop. I think it's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I also have another use case with schedule as well, and I think that's actually a really good segue into the next action that we recently released. I know this one wasn't mentioned in the newsletter, but you'll probably see it in the next ones too. It's transforming an array into string, and essentially, what was happening before is actually I just realized I'm not sharing my screen. Let me go back here. Okay, so one of the actions that we released, which is part of the Taskade utilities, is transforming an array into a string. An array is kind of a programming concept, but essentially it's a list. And let's say you had something like a loop, not a loop. Let's say you try to search for tasks within a project. Why don't I just type find? Oops. Oh, that's a trigger. Find tasks. So before, what would happen is, let's say you find tasks in a project and you wanted to access that as like a block or any sort of digestible list, you couldn't really access it because the only thing was it would provide you with the array, but there was no way for you to use that array in other applications, such as like sending an email or anything like that. So, what transforming an array into a string does is it basically takes each one of those items in that array and then turns it into a string or basically text that you can use in other actions. So, for example, I could take this array, I can take the task content for each one of these items, and then afterwards, we'll do join by new line. And then afterwards, I can access it as a result over here. So I'll show you a cool use case with that later on. But essentially, that was the last thing that I had here. And let's see. And Facebook Pages is actually coming soon as well. So keep an eye out for that. Now, I think what I can do is I can actually just dive into some of the use cases that we had. And I think I have like three use cases here. So solid ones. And I think they're very helpful and useful. So I'm just going to go into the first one. So actually, let's do this. First one is going to be for a contact form. And you can use this for a lead magnet or some sort of educational content drip feed. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to browse templates. I'm going to go to AI forms, and I'm actually just going to do contact form. And I'm going to delete these other options here. So I can just have the form template over here. So we got a full name, an email, phone number, and actually we're just going to take out the company name and the other stuff here, just to kind of have something simple. And we'll add long text and we'll say description. I'm going to save changes here. So when you go to the share tab at the top, you'll see the form that you can actually embed and share with others. Basically, full name, email, phone number, and description, right? And this form, I'm actually going to rename it and we'll call it lead magnet. We'll call it an email course lead magnet. So sometimes you have email courses where someone signs up, they want to learn more about a product or they want to know more about really any of the services that you might offer. You might use that as a lead magnet to collect their information. And what you want to do is we're going to have our form personalized over here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add a step where we say when they first sign up or they submit this form, we're going to send an email to them and we'll use their email and we'll say something like welcome to our course. And here you would put in whatever description you want to say. So you could say, hi, you've taken your first step into learning more about, and then you could put your company name or whatever it is, or whatever services, whatever it is. And then from here, you can add delays. So I can say, you know what? After that's sent, I want you to delay for 2 days and then send the follow-up email. I think some of you already kind of get the idea here. But essentially, you can send another one and say, this is a part 1 of a 5-part course. And then you just put email over here. And part 1. And you would just put your content here. Now, you can add agents in between each one of these steps as well to essentially create dynamic content that's very personalized for each one of your users as well. So, essentially, based on what they respond in this description area over here, you could then have an AI agent personalize the first message so it's unique for every person, and then afterwards continue on and on and on. So, you have a send email over here, then it delays for 2 days, and then afterwards send email again, and then we can add another delay. And let's say you give them an assignment or whatever, you could say for 1 week, and then build another send email action over here as well. So this is gonna it's a very easy way for you to actually keep up and and attract leads and also kind of create your own drip content for users.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the point is also that you have full flexibility in here, where you can add additional steps, but you can also close it with an additional kind of assignment back to a Taskade project, right?
Yeah.
As a possibility. But you can also use this without Taskade in the loop, but just starting with a form trigger. And I think that's the kind of flexibility we enable with the automations right now.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing is you can add so many checks in between here too. So, for example, if I send the email over here, one thing I might want to do is update one of the custom fields in the project, right? So I can update it to see which stage of the field or which stage of the content feed they're in, right? So if you have a 7-part drip content or email course, if they're on steps second, you might want to personalize things, or you might want to reach out to those people that are only in that stage. So you can do that. You could add fine tasks in between. You can. It's so powerful. You can like customize this in so many ways. So like this is just I'm giving a very basic overview of some of these things because I think kind of giving smaller use cases and simpler use cases like this helps users not feel intimidated by setting up some of these things. Automations are not as complicated as people might think. It just takes one foot in the door. So you can start with something super simple like this. And then you would just share this or embed it onto your thing. And
Yeah,
soon,
top right corner to
yeah,
publish.
you would just
Yeah.
publish this. You would enable the flow over here. Oh, I have to enable it on my end, but it's not going to let me because I haven't connected my Gmail and stuff.
I see. But yeah, but I think to the point, one of the question is, can we talk more about the Taskade AI kits or the kits and the bundles, right?
Hmm.
And the point is that to make it easier to have a one-click solution that can get you set up and started within Taskade. And the solution can be very simple, but at least it connects the dots between your automations, your agents, and maybe projects too. For those that's not familiar as well with Taskade's projects and the architecture of our system, the projects are essentially like smart documents where you have different views, but the data is persistent across the views, whether you're in list view or mind map view or Gantt view or table view, right? And table view is where we really optimize with custom fields as the add-on for every single task or bullet point, you will call it. But yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're. It's just another step in part of the process of like setting things up once and then reducing redundancies in a sense. So you set it up once. Automations are they're repeatable. So the data in between always changes, but the steps between don't. So it's like using Taskade kits or bundles really allows you to kind of set up these things once and then install it and add it for a whole bunch of other places too.
Yeah, I think the point is that it's worth the investment, right, and the time
Mhm.
spent because whether it's taking the time to train your AI agents or taking the time to set up an automation, you ultimately save a lot of time, depending on how much effort you put into getting your agents to work the way you want it to, or getting the automation set up to help you complete some repetitive flows. Um,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And I think we're actually, if you go on any of our community platforms as well, so Reddit, Facebook groups, Discord, like all of them, we've been posting a lot more bundles recently. So they are use case specific bundles. I like to think of bundles as like playbooks. So those are very helpful in speeding up some of the setup for automations, projects, and all that stuff.
yeah, yeah. Has some ideas on that too. Later we can share,
Hmm.
but also maybe we can end it with just testing out the bundle, right?
Yeah.
As the chat. One of the
So
questions that's about that.
yeah. So this is just one of the use cases. I think this should already kind of give a good starting ground for a lot of users. As I was setting this up, I already got a few ideas as well. So I'm going to go back here and I will show you the second use case that I have, which is more sales oriented. So not sales oriented, but essentially any sort of project that you have here. So what you can do is basically say, okay, let's say you have a new status in your project, right? This is very common. It's a new lead, it's assigned, contacted, demo scheduled, or follow up, whatever. You have stages or statuses within your project. What you can do is you can go to automate, add an automation. We're going to start from scratch. And I'm going to choose custom field updated. And we're going to choose the project leads. And I'm going to choose the status. And here's an overview of what I'm going to do. Essentially, what I want to do is if this goes to uh, follow up needed, so I'll do filter data. If the status of this custom field goes to follow up, what I want to do is I want to delay for 2 days, and then afterwards send an email. So essentially, if it follows up, if I change it to follow up needed, actually, not follow up, my bad. So if the status goes to follow up, then what I want to do is I want to send an email, and then I want to update that custom field and say, let's do task ID over here. I'm going to update that status, and then I'm going to change it to contacted. Then what we're going to do is we're going to delay for 2 days. And then after 2 days, if there's no response, then I want to update that custom field again. Oops, I did not mean to choose that. I'm going to update the custom field again to follow up. So essentially what's happening here is I'm saying if the custom field, the status field is updated in this leads project, I want you to run through this only if it's updated to follow up. And then if it's updated to follow up, I want you to send an email. So you can do a follow up email, whatever it is, send an email. And then afterwards, I want you to update the custom field to contacted because you just sent the email. And then wait 2 days. And after 2 days, if there's no response, then I want you to update the custom field again to follow up needed or follow up, or you can have a separate one just to show that you already followed up once and they didn't reply. And now you're going to follow up again. But essentially, you've just created a whole sequence for yourself and you've built in these delays. And within all of these, you can even create a draft too. So maybe after this delay, you followed up once, they didn't respond. Okay, you can create a second email draft over here. So I could do create draft email to that same person using a different template that I have for my sales. And it's not just for sales. You can do this for other things too. So any sort of stage or status change, you can set delays for when it should be changed later on. So if you have set sequences between stages, this is like a great use case for it as well.
Yeah, I think the one of the more advanced features that I personally also haven't fully utilized is also branching, right?
Hmm.
And thinking about things like having really qualified leads or folks that are considered VIPs or people that you really want to highlight, maybe you want to pass this into a different system, right? Maybe like a Salesforce or like a more enterprisey solution
Yeah.
or a different system. And that can be
Or even a HubSpot.
reassigned. Yeah, we have HubSpot right now, where then you get to reassign to someone else to take over.
Hmm.
And you can also, for example, do so within a Taskade project, right, or a
Yeah.
different workspace. Where do you see that as something being useful to actually, branch it out? And then, of course, you would need to zoom out, right, to see it if you do that. But
Yeah. I
instead of
mean,
like a linear sequence, yeah.
yeah. So the way I go about it is, or my thought process in general is if you have only one exception. So if you're trying to say only do this series with this specific status and it's just one to one and you don't really have any sort of exceptions for any of the other statuses, then I would do a filter. But if you have separated paths for each one of these things, what we can do is we can actually branch out. So you would have this custom field is updated, let's branch out. And then I can do a path for each one of these branches. So I can say, well, if the task status matches demo scheduled, I want you to run through this sequence. If it matches something else, I want you to run through this sequence.
Yeah, and actually to touch on that, one of the questions in chat is, how do you know in real life if there is no response, right? Or different ways to determine
Yeah.
the next steps.
So one thing that you can do is, well, this task custom field is updated, right? You can actually find an email. So one of the steps over here is you can actually do find tasks or find emails. And then emails to return, you can do the first matching email. And the way you're going to match is essentially they're from, and then you would put the value email. And so you would just be able to essentially find it through here. If there are no matches over here, like this is a much more complicated use case, definitely. But essentially from here, what you can do is then you can also, let's see, either send an email to that person. But yeah, you would be able to see the sender's email, the email message ID. But if there is no, so let's do this. Let me remove this. I would do filter data, and then I would say only continue if email message ID is empty. And the reason why is, or not email message ID.
Body, yeah.
Yeah, it would be email body is empty. Essentially, I would have to think about this a little bit more because it was one of the things that I was thinking of. But essentially, what you would be able to do is if you can find an email message ID from that user, so from sender's email, if it's sender's email, actually, no, my bad. This is better. If sender's email matches the email of your lead. So only continue if your find email, the from is sender's email. Only continue if the sender's email actually matches the email address that is for your lead. That way, you know, well, your lead is the one that sent it. So that's one way for you to check it. And then from here, you would be able to actually assign a task or add it or do whatever complicated workflows you want. So that was a bit convoluted, but essentially, what you would do is task custom field is updated, status changes. You can add this check, which is essentially search in my email inbox to see if I have any emails that were sent from this person. And if I do, then continue with this. If I don't, then don't.
Yeah, I think on the chat, Christoph actually mentioned also you can just use a filter action, right,
Mhm.
as the step.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You would just add that as for each one of these.
yeah,
Yeah. He just responded there too. So, yes, the find emails is perfect for this purpose. Great. Yeah. So that's essentially how I would go about it. And that's actually like it's the same with other triggers too. So if something is updated in let's say Calendly, what you can do is find a Taskade project and then update the stage and stuff like that as well. So you can really quickly build out like these two-way syncs with some of these platforms. So one thing is updated here, it updates in the other project as well. So yeah, let's see. That was pretty much the custom field automation setup that I had in mind. I'm going to actually delete these branches and keep it simple like this so then I can actually share this later on. And then the final one, I am going to do a new automation template over here. So in this case, we are actually going to do scheduled reporting. This is a huge ask. It is something that a lot of users have asked for. Building something out like this, typically in other platforms, is like the platform itself builds it, not the users. But now you can customize it to however you want and whatever you want. So if you're trying to do any sort of reporting on a scheduled interval or basis, you should continue watching this. Essentially, what we're going to do is we're going to do schedule and we'll do every week. So let's say you have a project, it has all of your tasks, all the information you need, and you want to take certain information from your project and send that to stakeholders. Well, the way you do that is you schedule for every week. We can do Monday because everybody loves Mondays at 8 a.m. and we'll put it on LA time because that's where I am. So every week, what we're going to do is we're going to find tasks in the project. So let's say my leads, and I'm going to return all matching tasks as array because I want to get all the tasks that have this criteria, right? And then we're going to do identify tasks. And we're going to do identify tasks. For the field, we're going to choose the status field. So make sure your you have custom fields set up on your project already, because it's much easier to navigate through this. We're going to say the status field matches new lead. And I want to find all the new leads that came in. And I want to get a report every week for all the ones that are still in this new lead stage. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to add step. We're going to go to transform array into string. So now I've gotten my list of tasks in the form of an array that are all new leads. And you'll see this over here, array of matching tasks. And then I'm going to do, for where it says transform each item into string, I'm going to do at, and we're going to use the current item, task content. And then we could do a tab, and then we can do status as well. So you'll get the essentially content, which is the task, what the name is. It could be either their name, it could be whatever it is. And then we could also do at email address. So you can also get their email address if you want to quickly follow up with some of these. So to kind of point back to what John was saying earlier, if you have a status that says, or a custom field that says VIP, you might want to get a weekly report on the status on these VIPs. You can do that through this automation. So in the find tasks, you would be able to search the status and then have another one that says and right here. And you could say like end status equals, or lead score equals, I don't know, whatever it is. Then you can essentially filter through those as well. But yeah, so going back here, transform the array into a string, array of matching tasks. This is the format. So it's going to show me my task content, my current item, and then my current item email address for each one of those leads. And then we're going to do join by new line. And then we are just going to send this as an email. So we'll do send email over here. Two, you would just define the people or group that you're going to send it to. So some people have Google groups, but it could even just be like, let's say sales@taskade.com. So you can send it there, and then you could say something like weekly report. And yeah, we can just do trigger time here too. But I could just do weekly report. And actually, yeah, we'll do the trigger time over here. And then for the body, we'll say something like, here's the new leads that have not been assigned to anyone yet. And then we're just going to do result. And you can add any of the other additional data that you want. But yeah, you would just save changes and then you would activate this and you are good to go. But this is just essentially a reporting use case for honestly anything at this point. So you can do it for completed tasks. You can do it for any sort of tasks that have specific statuses that you want to follow up on or you want to monitor. So let's say you have a set of tasks that are always in progress, but they're not completed. You can set a daily reminder essentially by changing the schedule interval from every week to every day. So every day you're getting notifications about which tasks are not completed and essentially transforming that and sending an email to you or your team members. And then you could even take this a step further, branch it out. Like you can branch this out and say, well, I only want to look at specific, like there's so many things you could do with it. So yeah, that's pretty much all I had on my end. I think the next thing that we can do is just kind of hop into Q&A and just talk more about like the product itself and answer some questions.
Yeah, I think one of the parts that we touched on last week and getting questions on is also building and customizing, right, your AI kits or your Taskade kits or bundles. We put together like a help center article with the steps, but of course there's ways to improve on it. I think one of the very interesting use case for that is the ability to actually add a description, right, and then being able to describe the use cases and making that editing experience better when you publish the link. And of course, the link can be better. Do you want to try setting one up right now, even just a basic one, and then just show people how to access it? Because we actually didn't really go into detail on that. last time.
Yeah, I mean, I can do that right now. I
Yeah.
realized I had another use case as well, but that was more for GitHub. So I can technically go into that, or I'll save that for another time. I'll save that for next week. But essentially, one of the things that you can do is let me share my screen right here. Let's go to Window. All right. So what I like to do is I'm just going to delete this project right here. Actually, I'll keep it. But what I'll do is I'll change this to meeting transcript. It'll be easier for me next week. And okay, so starting off with bundles, what you want to do is you want to go into whatever workspace or folder you want to essentially create into a bundle, or you want the information from there to be referenced. And you want to click on the drop down at the top, and you'll see something that says bundles right here. Now I'm gonna click on that, and you'll be presented with this page. Now, obviously, we're gonna make this nicer, prettier, whatever it is, but you can do create bundle right here. You'll see an untitled bundle right here. You're going to click on this. Now, you can name your bundle. So I can say sales playbook. And then you can describe your bundle over here. So I can say, this is the template that you should use for whenever you're handling your sales, right? Now, you'll see that I have my projects over here, and then I have the option to add to bundle. So this leads project, the one with all the templated statuses, fields, all that stuff, I can add that to the bundle. But I'm actually going to show you something even more important. If I go to automations and I have this leads task custom field updated project, right? If I do add to bundle, it automatically detects that, well, this project is the one that's being referenced by that automation. So you should add that to your bundle as well. So if I do proceed, it'll automatically add those here. And the icons, you could tell that this is an automation because it has that automation icon that you'll find in your workspace tabs. And then you could tell this is a project because it has that project icon as well. And then agents, if I add, let's say, my sales framework agent or my sales representative, since my sales representative references the everything you need to know about Taskade project as part of its knowledge, it's going to add that to the bundle as well. So then I'll do proceed over here, and you'll see it's adding it up on the side here. Now, if I have other templates, I can add them here too for projects, but essentially now I can add multiple steps here. Yeah, following items will be added. And then you can just essentially add all the automation steps that you need. And then once you're good with it, you can describe you need to set up some of these automations and projects. Feel free to customize however you want. So let's say I have that. Once I have this all done, I like this. I like the way it's added up. What I can do is I can press share over here, and then it'll say create shareable link. I'll press that on, and then you'll have a shareable link that you can actually copy. And then if someone views it, this is what they'll see on their end. And it will show that there's this automation included, this project, AI agent, other project, AI agent, automation. So you can see all of these are just added up here. I can do install bundle, and it will tell me which workspace or folder I want to add this to. So I can add it to sales, I can add it to workspace, whatever it is. So one really good use case for this is if you have a client process that you've already created, you like this, it's working really well. Create a bundle for your client process, and then afterwards replicate that every single time you're onboarding a new client. So being able to add that and essentially creating a new workspace or folder, whatever it is for your new client, it speeds up your process. I don't know how much. So, and yeah, that's pretty much how to use bundles.
Yeah, feel free to drop the link. And for, I think the agent embedding and sharing, right? One of the things that we actually really wanted to make work is not just embedding your AI agents as an iframe on your website, but also make it a widget at the bottom right corner for your dashboards or your client-facing sites, and then making that more customizable. So that is in the upcoming newsletter. Have you shared some of those recently?
Yeah, so I think the agent widget I'll just reference it real quick. I shared it last week as well, but I think some people might not have tuned in as much. Not last week, 2 weeks ago. But essentially, with AI agents, what you can do is if you're sharing them. So if you go to your AI agents tab and then you press share agent, and then once public access is enabled, you can already customize a lot of the stuff here. But one of the cool things is that we actually added this embed widget. So similar to a live chat widget on any sort of website, you now have this widget that you can install onto your website. And then from there, you embed the script. And same way that you click on it to open up a live chat, you would be able to click on this to open up an AI agent. And we do have a lot more customizations and stuff in store for that. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, so the embedding and sharing of widgets, we actually support three different types of use cases, right? So one,
Mhm.
you can share your agent as a template. When you have a link, you can choose the template mode
Yeah.
or chat and template, right? So with the template mode, it's really just let people understand and just get that link to save the knowledge, the commands, everything. But when you use the original way of sharing or setting it up on the embed code, it puts the whole entire agent at the forefront. But with the widget, actually, it becomes something that's more like almost like a live chat or something that you can interact with on your website in the corner, right, of your page.
Mhm.
And right now, it's displayed at the bottom right corner with the icon being your agent icon or agent emoji or whatever avatar, right, profile or your company logo that you put
Yeah.
um, on the setting for the agent. But we will add additional customizations on that as well. I think for this one, we can probably dive a little bit more next live stream.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, one of the good things about like having the chat only or the chat and template is that you can actually use chat and template for offboarding. So if you created this agent as a service for one of your clients, whatever it is, um, and let's say you're offboarding the client because you've taken on a bigger one, what you can do is you can actually do chat and template and then allow them to copy the knowledge as well. And that way, when you're sharing it, they can clone it on their end. So if I open this share link right here, I'll be able to clone it on my end and add it with all the information that this agent references as well. So quick way of offboarding. I'm just going to close these tabs right here. And yeah, I think what we can do for the remaining 10 or so minutes, let me go through the chat and then answer any sort of questions that may not have been responded to. I know, John, you already kind of went through a lot of these.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, I think I missed a lot. You can take a look.
all right, let's see. So Chris said, "How do I get the CNAME functionality? Been waiting for that." So quick overview of that. What you can do is you can just click on any sort of these uh, folders and then press edit. Go to domains, and you'll be able to set your own Taskade.site domain, or you can add your own CNAME to have a custom branded subdomain. And then let's see. Keep going, keep going. Sorry, guys. I would like to create a. Okay, so I answered that one before. Let's see. The custom fields are akin to properties in Notion, correct? Sometimes people get lost in the terminology with. Yeah, so custom fields are essentially your own custom properties. I guess the way it maps in Notion to Taskade is in Notion you have your own custom properties, in Taskade you have your own custom fields. So that's a good point to bring out. I know we have a lot of users that transition over from Notion to Taskade.
Yeah,
So
and I think you can mention how this kind of connects with the structure, right, of our documents
mhm,
and how it's attached to individual notes, right, or
yeah,
task or bullets. Um, and the data is persistent again across different views when you're um, working in different styles or editing or visualizing. And we're going to make the custom fields actually more compatible across views in the
yeah,
future. But obviously, right now it's optimized for the table view.
yeah. So definitely. And then let's see. Do you have any suggestions for you reusing automations? Definitely bundles, just like how I showed earlier. So if you have a lot of automations, and they kind of are the same. You can just create a bundle right here, and then you can just share it with other people as well. And yeah. So if you
Yeah,
have any sort of automations that you're reusing, I would definitely create a bundle for it and then add it for your workspace within each one of those.
yeah. I think sharing the bundle is definitely the most kind of
Easy
unified
way.
approach, right? Yeah, because it includes everything, and you make
Yeah.
sure that whatever you need to connect is also, within this link.
Hmm.
But I think one thing that's a little confusing right now in the UI for Taskade automation that we will improve on is you can already share the automation, but it might be confusing because we have shared twice. Maybe you can show that
Yeah.
where, yeah,
So
if you have a reusable automation and you want to share it at the top right corner,
yeah,
oh, can you go back?
the
Yeah,
idea
you go to,
is oh wait, my bad. Let me do a better example. Yeah, the idea is mainly because for share, you can create custom forms, and these forms are more like apps. So the idea was like sharing this app with other people, whether it's internally or externally. But yeah, you can share just the automation itself, or you can share the form itself as well.
yeah, so to answer the question, you can reuse an automation as a form in many ways, right? Because if you
Mhm.
actually set up the trigger as a form, or set up the trigger as an agent as well, like the agent calls the automation, then it is very easy to reuse it and share it. But you can also share it as a template, like as an individual automation template by clicking on the center tab, the manage tab, and then clicking on the share at the top right corner. Which again, I think we're going to rename some of these things to clarify
Mhm.
the tabs itself, because what you're actually doing is when you're managing your workflow right now, right? You're editing, managing a workflow. And then the tab on the left for share is more like almost like an edit form or edit
Yeah, this is
um,
more like a
AI
UI.
app. Yeah.
So
So
yeah, we'll definitely work on the naming. So kind of removing the
yeah,
redundancy there.
but I did drop a link on how to actually set up your Taskade AI kits and to bundle everything. So this is probably still the best way to do it, because you want to make sure that your automation, your projects, your agents, right, can be together in a single link. Yeah, and I think that makes the most use of Taskade, yeah, cohesively in a single link.
So I am going to go through this real quick because we're like running out of time almost. Okay, so in real life, how do you do the if there's no response? I think I already answered that. Is there a feature that identifies if you have received the response? That was kind of following the same thing with finding the emails. And then actually, yeah. So question, if you have a split, the path A is no, then does it automatically go to B then C? So I'm actually going to address this because I think it's good for branch specifically. If you have a template like this and you use a branch always has one fallback. So you see where it says path condition type, you always have one that's a fallback. And the fallback, you can think of it as like the default pathway that it's going to take if none of these conditions or if none of the other conditions for the path matches up. So, for example, if I say I want the task content has name Narek in it, I just misspelled my name. That's crazy. If these conditions are present, I want you to run through this. But if they aren't present, then I want you by default to run through path B. And you can just set this to do nothing sometimes. So yeah. And then let's see what else here. Report use case is also huge. You know you kill Zapier. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff here that like is insane. Whenever I try to explain it to a lot of people, it's like they don't imagine some of these tools being into Taskade. And yeah, and 100% agree on both points. So happy to finally found Taskade. Yeah, we're glad to have you as a user as well, and we're happy you found us too. And hopefully it continues that way. And let's see. Can you please review the best method of how to use knowledge? Okay, that's a good question. So I'm gonna go back here. Okay, knowledge, the way I like to explain AI agents and knowledge in general, AI agents are like you're onboarding a new employee. So Taskade is really built for that human AI collaboration feature. So you have an email writer, let's say, right? Well, if you want your email writer to write things properly, you give them a set of instructions, right? You define what they need to do generally for their job, and that's where you would put it into instructions. So if you have certain formatting that you want them to always follow, any sort of overarching instructions, hence the name instructions, you always want to add it over here. Now, knowledge is essentially the resources that you want them to refer to whenever they're doing their job. So, for example, if you have certain brand or certain information that they need to know, you would want to provide them with that information. So, if someone's drafting emails about my product, I want them to know about that product. So, I might give them everything they need to know about Taskade as a project for them to actually reference that information. And the reason why I choose a project is because I can always change this information in a project, and it's like making a company wide announcement almost. It trickles to every other agent that's referencing this project as well. So, yeah, I think that is, let's see, that pretty much answers that. You're deploying new features.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Sorry, just to touch back though again on I think training your AI agents in Taskade, right? Because just like setting up your automation, the ROI or whatever you're able to actually get out of it is really how you set it up, right? Initially,
Hmm.
but you can not just train your AI agents manually, right? By adding different links or content. You can
Yeah.
also set up automations, right? To automatically scrape a web page once a day or automatically
Yeah.
extract information from different sources and then add to agent knowledge as the last step in the loop or in the automation flow. And this could be a very simple RSS feed. Maybe you can just set that up like an RSS feed
Hmm.
here with like a Taskade blog. And then when there's new posts from the RSS feed, you just grab that link and then you paste it into web scraper. And then at the very last step, you add to agent knowledge. So
Yeah.
this becomes an automated way to train your agents. And some of the limitations right now on the knowledge side of agents is going to be resolved. So this is going to only get better and better and better. So
Yeah.
meaning it's not even a manual thing. This is something you can do in an automatic way. And then for our internal use case, this could be also like when we add new features, right? Or new documentation, help center articles. For developers, it can be new API documentations. And as long as you have some way to feed it into this flow or automation flow,
Yeah.
this can be an automated process. Yeah.
So, and then I'm going to address like a couple more questions here. Okay. So just general thing. If you're legacy and you don't see, if you're on a legacy plan and you don't see the custom domains feature, reach out to support@taskade.com and we'll get that sorted out for sure. And then let's see, is there a way to talk to Twilio? You can do it through a custom HTTP. So there's a few ways. Uh, you can either use the Twilio integration in our automation. So you can actually send an SMS through Twilio, or you can also use sending an HTTP request. So if you want to have any sort of custom endpoints or whatever it is, you can use Twilio's API and configure it so you can do whatever you need. And if you want to use this at the agent level, you can just use an agent tool. And then I can call this something like send info with Twilio. And now do save changes. Now I would have to connect my accounts here and they're not set up. So I wouldn't be able to enable this over here. But essentially, I would be able to create that custom tool and then pass that on to my AI agent as add tools. And you would see something like that available here. So you would add that, and then now your AI agent can interact with Twilio. And then let's see. Okay. One last question here. Actually, two. I have two more questions. I'll answer those, and then we'll call it a day. I tried to use an automation that calls an API in a chat to ask questions. However, the AI responds without considering the automation's response. Mm, can you reach out to support@taskade.com regarding this? I think we'll probably have to look at your automation directly. And then from there, I think helping with configuring some of the stuff for you. I do not understand how it all connects. Also, media and how does that add in? So I'll just give a very quick general overview and then we'll call it a day. This is the last question I will answer. So you have projects. Projects are essentially your smart collaborative documents. This is where all of your content, your notes, your tasks, all of it is going to be within your projects. AI agents are essentially your virtual team, right? So they're your AI team members. You are going to be working with them within your projects, chatting directly with them, or using them in automations. And then there's AI teams. AI teams, you can think of this as like a group chat or a department. So in a social media department, you might have a content strategist, you might have a blog writer, you might have a social media manager. You have different roles and they all work together. That's where AI teams come into play. Then there's automations. Automations essentially can reference information within your projects or other applications. And you can use AI agents to actually interact and modify and even create some of that content or information within that automation flow. Then there's media. Media is a collection of all the files and resources. All the files and essentially documents, data that you have uploaded, whether it's to an agent's knowledge or if it's to a project. And for any of these, you can ask AI and you can chat with them directly through here. So
One
yeah.
of the things I noticed, by the way, over the weekend was that we actually never built a product tour for automation. So we have one
Yeah.
for the editor, right? Projects for editing agents, like how to train it.
Mhm.
We have one for the workspace, the dashboard, but actually that got overwritten recently, so people are not seeing it coming into Taskade. But the part that's actually the most like advanced expert mode when it comes to the last step for automations, definitely need to set that up. But yeah, one last thing though, because this live stream did want to highlight the widgets, right, for AI agents.
Mhm.
I do have a link in chat if you want to open that from Squarespace, and then the password is 123123. So again, you can actually train your AI agents and share it, publicly, but you can also now embed it as a widget on your website.
Mhm.
Yeah, do you see the link?
Yeah, let me can you actually send that to me? Let me
You mean
do
like texting or?
yeah. Or let me actually screenshot it. Well, it's not working.
Yeah, it's not clicking, right? But yeah, I think the point is that this is actually super powerful in many ways, but also the UI and the implementation that we did is very simple and clean, but also very brandable and functional, right? And it's fully trained on your knowledge, and it's also connected to the tools that you enable as well as like the automation flows. And yeah, I just tested you the link and the access code.
Okay.
But this is just a very quick demo, I think, just to end this with. And then as usual, yeah, feel free to follow us at Taskade on the social. Be sure to, again, file any bug reports, especially on forum.taskade.com. And then, of course, share any flows, any setups, any Taskade kits on our Reddit, Facebook groups, so on and so forth, and tag us anytime on social. And always appreciate, feedback and reviews. And yeah, Narek, I'll let you
Let
close.
me replace my screen sharing real quick.
Okay.
Okay. So this is what it would look like. I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, so this could be for your WordPress, for your portfolio, for your company web page, but it can also just be for internal dashboards and use. And right now it's placed at the bottom right corner. But again, this is going to be more and more customizable. I don't
Oh,
think you
I
have to.
zoomed in way too much. I was trying to show it, but I zoomed in way too much.
Yeah, so this is where the commands, right, and all these are customizable. We're going to make it easier to add introductions and greetings and customizations here.
Mhm.
But I think the craziest part is, again, this is fully connected to your entire Taskade setup, right? Your workspace, your automations, how you train your agents. And now you can bring this to your website and your dashboards, your contact forms as a widget, not just like an embedding of an iframe. So yeah, this is available today, and we'll share more details on it in the blog post and newsletter.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. I think that's pretty much it. This went a bit longer than usual,
That was
but
cool. Yeah, it
yeah,
was fun.
definitely had fun. This was first time doing it together, but definitely not the last time. So we will see you guys next week as well. And yeah, if there are any other questions, definitely send them over to us, whether it's on actually even join our communities as well. We have a lot more people joining these communities. We're pretty much on, I think, almost every platform known to man at this point. So definitely join, contribute, ask questions. We look at these and we try to improve the product as much as we can. And yeah, we will see you guys next week.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Of course.
Bye.
Bye.